You want me to turn up the volume? Ha! I tricked you! Oh my god, that was fun. Oh jeez, the fun I have with you kids. Mr. Key, he's back. He's helping you. He's helping you. Or maybe he's just annoying you. Day 5. Day 5. Day 5. Okay, let's start with a little bit of warm-ups. Warm-ups. Warm-ups mean you do them and then I do them. So hit pause. Great. Did you get 5? 6x equals 30. X equals 5. Ooh, that was so dumb in the cross. This one was a little bit trickier. X, you should have paused it. Minus 6 plus 4. But I'm not done. I want to solve. X equals 6. X equals negative 4. Done. So much fun. What's the question ask? Oh. Find the nearest degree of the measure the angle makes with the ground. Here's the angle makes with the ground. Theta. So opposite. Hypotenuse. Sine of theta equals 30 over 50. I bust out the old Taschenrechner and I do a little inverse sine of 30 divided by 50. And I get 36.86. Theta equals 36.86. Round to the nearest degree. Theta equals 37 degrees. Awesome. Where is sine positive? All students take calculus. Sine is positive here and here. And this is what we're going to be working with a little bit today. Talking about where sine is positive. All right, let's get going. We want to solve each equation below for the value. We're going to round to the nearest degree. So I'm going to bring the 1 over. So I get 2 sine theta equals 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. So I end up with sine theta equals 1. Well, where does sine theta equals 1? Well, if you take a look, remember the graph we just did, right? 90 degrees, 180, 270, or 360. And we did this. Right? Where does it equal 1? It equals 1 at 90 degrees. And you have to have that memorized anyway. So in this case, the answer is 90. There's only one place it's equal to 1. Wait a second. Where does sine equal negative 1/2? Well, negative 1/2. Well, that means sine is negative. That means we got to be in this quadrant and this quadrant. I want to think about the reference angle. The reference angle is 30. So theta is 30 degrees, but I am in the third quadrant. And in the third quadrant, we do 180 plus 30, which is 210 degrees. There's one of my answers. Or I could also be in the fourth quadrant, and that would be 360 minus 30 degrees, or 330. So this one, my answer is 210 degrees, or 330 degrees. Oh my goodness, I forgot about my big fat head being in the way. Hopefully you guys understood that. All right, let's keep moving. We're going to do the odds. That way I don't have to go back and forth. So it says round to the nearest degree, right? So those are easy. Now we're going to get a little bit more tricky. So cosecant theta equals 3 when you bring that over. So really what we have here is theta is equal to the inverse cosecant of 3. Come over here. Inverse cosecant of 3. And you get 19.47 degrees. So theta is equal to 19.47 degrees. Okay, but this is really where sine is positive, and sine is positive in the first and the third quadrant. What does it say rounded to the nearest what? Nearest degree. So my nearest degree in this case would be 19 degrees. So in the first quadrant, it's just 19, but in the second quadrant, I got to do 180 minus 19 degrees. So that would be 161 degrees. So in this case, my answers are 19 degrees and 161 degrees. So what we're doing, the hardest part about this is finding the first one is always easy. Finding the first one's always easy. Finding the second or the third or the fourth, that's going to be the tricky part about today, and that's your job. Sometimes you have up to 4 angles. You'll see. 5. Now I've got a quadratic. So now it's not a linear, it's a quadratic, so I have to solve by factoring. The only way to solve this is to factor. Yes, factor. Now, if you want to think about this as really being x squared minus 11x plus 24, because, not think about the sign here, that's okay. But when I want to see your factoring, I expect you to see it sine of theta and sine of theta. Those two multiply to give me sine squared. Now I got to come up, now it's the same thing. I got to come up with a way to multiply to negative 11 to add up to 24. And that would be minus 3 and minus 8. Okay. So this one gives me sine theta equals 3, or sine theta equals 8. So, let's go inverse sine of 3. Oh yeah, I got to remember something. That thing I got to remember is that sine cannot be bigger than 1 or less than negative 1. So you can never have a number over here bigger than 1 or less than 1 when it's sine or cosine. So actually the answer to this question is just the empty set. Let's try 7. We'll solve this. We'll bring the 1 over, so I get sine of theta is equal to 1. Oops, square root of 7. Divide by the square root of 2. So I get the sine of theta is equal to 1 over radical 2. Let me rationalize that real quick. It looks pretty easy. So that's really the sine of theta is equal to radical 2 over 2. Oh, okay. I know that happens at 45 degrees. That's not a problem. Sine of 45 degrees. Wait a second. Sine is positive in the first quadrant and the second quadrant. So remember, when you get these, they usually come in pairs. So yeah, we're going to talk about the 45 degree angle in the first quadrant, but we also have to talk about the 45 degree angle in the second quadrant. And then I take 180 and I subtract 45, I get 135. So my two answers to this problem are 45 and 135. So remember, we're going to be looking for angles in multiple quadrants. So you're going to have to do a little bit more work. All right. So I can do this one a number of two ways. I'm going to do it this way. Sine squared theta is equal to 1/4. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, but I got to remember when I take the square root, I got to put a plus or a minus. So this becomes sine of theta is equal to plus or minus. Now the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 2 is 4, plus or minus 1/2. Plus or minus. So sine is equal to plus, which is in this quadrant and this quadrant, and minus, which is equal to this quadrant and this quadrant. That means there's going to be 4 answers, one in every quadrant. So really what I got to do is figure out what is the reference angle when sine is equal to 1/2. And if I remember that, that would be a 30-degree angle. Okay. So really what I want is 30 degrees. That's the first quadrant, so my first answer is 30 degrees. Now I got to go into second quadrant, 30 degrees. That would be 180 minus 30, or 150 degrees. In the third quadrant, it's negative, so I'm going to add 30 degrees, 210 degrees. And in the fourth quadrant, this 30-degree angle, I come back from 360, that would be 330 degrees. So in this case, I get 4 answers. So if you ever get a plus or minus, you know you're going to get 4 answers. Just be careful. Let's go with 11. We got a factor. So I get sine of theta, sine of theta. They got to multiply to -4. So that would be -4 and +1. Those multiply to -4 and they add up to -3. All right, hard part's over. Sine of theta equals 4. That can't happen. Or the sine of theta equals -1. Oh, okay. If I draw a -1, that's down here, right? That's at theta equals 270 degrees. Uh-oh, more crazy factoring. So let's try 2 sine theta and 2 sine theta. Well, the only way to multiply to -1 is -1 and a +1. But those won't give me 3. Actually, that's the difference of perfect squares. That won't work. So that's 2 and 2's not going to work. So let's try 4 and just 1. Let's see, that's +4 and -1. Oops, signs are backwards. So let's make this positive, and we'll come over here and make this negative. All right, so -4. Okay, got it. So now I've got sine of theta equals 4 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. Bring the 1 over, I get 4 sine theta equals -1, or sine theta equals -1/4. We're going to talk about that one in a second. This one I just get sine theta equals 1, and I hope by now you've memorized that that's when theta is 90 degrees. This one's a little bit trickier, and here's my warning to you. What I want you to do is I want you to tell me what it is, but without the negative. Without the negative. I need to find this reference angle. I have to find this reference angle, and I'll show you why in a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our calculator. We're going to do inverse sine of 1/4. Not -1/4, just 1/4. And we're going to round that to the nearest degree. So round to the nearest degree, that would be 14 degrees. So I know round to the nearest degree, this is 14 degrees. Now, that would be 14 degrees in all 4 quadrants. That's a reference angle. But I have only negatives. I don't have positives. So that would be in the 3rd quadrant and the 4th quadrant. Remember, I'm going to remind you this. The sign just tells you the quadrant we're in. You still need to find the reference angle. So when you put it in your calculator, you'll always put the positive in and then decide which quadrants we're going to go to. So in this quadrant, I'll do 180 plus 14, which is 194. And in this quadrant, I'll do 360 minus 14, which is 346. So my answers are 90, 194, and 346. Yes, that's the tricky part. We're going to keep going doing that kind of stuff. Let's do another one. 15. So I'm going to say, okay, 2 sine squared theta equals 1. Oh, sine squared theta equals 1/2. Take the square root. Take the square root. When you take the square root, you got to put a plus or minus. So sine of theta is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1/2, which is really plus or minus the 1 over the square root of 2, which is really equal to plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. Now this one's not bad. I don't have to put this in my calculator. I know that theta when it's the square root of 2 over 2 is 45 degrees. But it's plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. So that means I have to get an angle in all 4 quadrants. Sine is positive in the first and second. It's negative in the third and fourth. And they're all going to be reference angles of 45 degrees. So in the first quadrant, it's just 45 degrees. To get in the second quadrant, we're going to do 180 minus 45 degrees. That's 135 degrees. In the third quadrant, we're going to do 180 plus 45 degrees. That's 225 degrees. And finally, in the third quadrant, we're going to take 360 and we're going to subtract off 45, and I get 315 degrees. All right, let's keep moving. 17. All right, cosecant. So I'm not going to try to factor this. I'm just going to solve it. So I go 3 cosecant squared x equals 4. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. And I get cosecant squared x equals 4/3. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I take the square root, I want to put a plus or minus. So what I end up with is cosecant x is equal to plus or minus 2 over radical 3. It's really obnoxious, but I'm just going to put this in my calculator. I think this is a nice angle. I'm only going to put the positive in. So I will do inverse cosecant of 2 divided by radical 3. And you're going to find out this is a nice angle, 60 degrees. So I find out that my reference angle x is 60 degrees. But that's 60 degrees in the first quadrant and second quadrant. Cosecant is positive. And in the third and fourth, it's negative. So 60 degrees in the first quadrant. Oh, that's easy. That's just 60 degrees. 60 degrees in the second quadrant is 180 minus 60, which is 120 degrees. 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. And 360 minus 60 is 300 degrees. Practice, 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 kids. Okay, we're going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. So I get sine squared x equals 3/4. And I'm going to come through and I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When you take the square root, you put a plus or minus. So I end up with sine of x is equal to plus or minus 3, but the square root of 4 is 2. Oh, well, that's one of those fractions I know. When x is equal to square root of 3, it's 60 degrees. So believe it or not, we're the same answers as the last problem. 60 degrees first quadrant. 180 minus 60 is 120 degrees. 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. I got to get into all 4 quadrants. And 300 in my last one. What do you think, kids? I see a GCF. Do you see a GCF? Yes, Mr. Crown, I see a GCF. Well, that's great. My GCF in this case is sine x. They both have a sine x in common. So what I end up with is the square root of 3 sine x plus, remember when we take that sine out, there's still a 1 there. 1 equals 0. All right. Set these both equal to 0. Sine of x equals 0. And this one I have the square root of 3 sine x equals, plus 1 equals 0. This one gives me the square root of 3 sine x equals negative 1. Divide by radical 3. Divide by radical 3. And I get sine of x equals negative 1 over the square root of 3. Well, this is what I'm going to use in my calculator. I'm going to do x equals inverse sine of Now, I'm not going to do negative. I just got to remember that's going to help me with my quadrants, 1 over 3. So I take my thing out, take my calculator out, inverse sine of 1 divided by radical 3. Oops, forgot to put a number in. That's because my computer's messed up. 3. Oh. Okay. Let's start over. So inverse sine of 1 divided by the square root of 3. Enter. 35 degrees. Rounded to the nearest degree, it's 35 degrees. So x equals 35 degrees. Now, I need to remember that sine is negative in the third and fourth quadrant. So I need to do 180 plus 35 to get one of those angles in the third quadrant. That's 215. And I need to do 360 minus 35, which is 325, and that would get me my angle in the third quadrant. Sine is 0. Let's see. Well, that's at 0, 180, and 360. So I got 5 answers to this. 0, 180, 360 degrees, and I got these two, 215 degrees, and 325 degrees. Holy mackerel. All of those answers work for this problem. All right, we've got 2 left. What I would do is bring the sine x over. It's negative, so I make it a positive. Sine squared x. Divide by 2. So I really have sine squared x equals a half. Take the square root, and anytime you take the square root, you ended up putting a plus or minus. So sine of x is equal to plus or minus 1 over radical 2, which is really plus or minus radical 2 over 2 when you rationalize this. Well, that's just 45 degrees there. X equals 45 degrees. I wonder why I put some of these in. But because it's plus or minus, I'm in all 4 quadrants. So the answer to this question is 45. In the second quadrant is 135. In the third quadrant is 225. In the fourth quadrant is 315. We've already done that. I think the last one's a little more interesting. Oh, it's bonus. So I will leave this as bonus. But I'll give you a hint. That thing right there, got to do something with it. Ooh, it's so tricky. All right, kids, that was it. We had fun today. That was a short video. In class, I'll probably go through a little bit longer, take a little bit more time with this in class. But it's not bad. It's not bad. All right, kids, check on the flip side.